Welcome to the show where we look at how business shapes our world. I'm Stephen Carroll. Coming up, the world's biggest startup hub opens in Paris. We'll be speaking to one of the firms moving into Station F. A major overhaul of India's tax system. We'll be looking at the changes and the challenges of the new goods and services tax. Plus, is Thailand turning its back on backpackers? This as the government tries to attract richer visitors to new luxury resorts. First up, though, it's a big week for startups here in France. The largest startup hub in the world, called Station F, opens its doors. The project is backed by French telecoms billionaire Xavier Niel and will house hundreds of fledgling companies in a former railway depot in Paris's 13th arrondissement. In a moment, we'll speak to one of the firms that'll be moving in. But we start this week in the skies over the Atlantic Ocean, where a group of French startups were given the chance to wow investors and business leaders while on a flight from Paris to New York. France 24's Claire Williams was on board.
He's known as the president's Mr. Digital. A former online entrepreneur, Munir Majoubi ticks all the right boxes, even down to his dress sense.
I've created several startups in my life. I messed some of them up, but one or two were successful. Now I'm going to try not to mess up too many projects in government.
For his first official trip outside Europe, the sneaker-wearing minister is heading to New York with 7 French startups.
Make our administration great again, make our planet great again, make our startup great again.
We're going to make France an example, and I assure you we're off to a good start already. Now it's up to you.
A pep talk ahead of a long journey across the Atlantic. The startups have a few minutes to win over a jury made up of investors and business experts. This 28-year-old has invented a connected device which allows wine to breathe.
With
your smartphone, you take a photo of the label. We calculate the condition the wine is in, and the only thing left to do is serve yourself a glass of wine.
Exactement.
And this biologist has created an indoor organic vegetable patch.
It's about this size. It can be 2 times bigger or 2 times smaller. It all depends on how much space people have at home.
The Digital Affairs Minister is at home here in a startup atmosphere that's often associated with Macron's En Marche movement.
We don't have to put on airs and graces. We showed that during the En Marche campaign. We can see it here with these seasoned investors and entrepreneurs. We don't have to be too serious when we're doing very serious things.
The 7 startups have arrived here in New York, the concrete jungle where dreams are made. Their dream is to make it in the United States, and the French Touch Conference is designed to help them do that.
The Frenchman behind the idea is Gaël Duval, an entrepreneur, investor and Macron supporter from the start. The maker of an indoor map system for buildings won the first prize. The jury gave a second prize, though, for innovation to the wine device maker. And the others aren't too disappointed. They've made contacts in New York they hope will help them enter the US market.
Well, one of the startups that's moving into Station F is Reminder. They're a recruitment tool that analyses candidate CVs and applications to find the best person for a job using artificial intelligence. Moody and Xavier, you're the co-founder and CEO of Reminder. Thank you very much for coming in to speak to us.
Thank you for having me.
We just heard there about people pitching their business ideas in a plane. Have you any funny pitch stories that you've had to do in a strange location?
Actually, the funniest pitch location I did, it was in a truck. Actually, it was a fun track, so and I was pitching on the street, and so it was very, very funny.
It must be quite nerve-wracking, I think, to have an experience.
Yes,
like that.
Especially when some people that don't know that there is pitch stop by you and start to
wondering if you're selling something instead. Let's move on to talk about Station F. It's going to be a big development, of course, in the startup world in Paris. Do you think it will change the scene here for startups?
I think that it will definitely change the scene. I think that right now it's the best time, I think, in the history of France where you can start a startup, especially with the new government that is supporting the startup, and with big initiatives like Station F, where you have, they are building an ecosystem of startups in the heart of Paris.
You talked about the new government there. When you look at the policies they're promising, what What are you excited about?
The laws in France used to punish people for failing. So right now they are giving people the opportunity to fail. And from a foreigner point of view, like me, I think it will be easier for people to set up their companies here. In my case, I had to stay about 2 years discussing with the government to get my entrepreneurship visa. It was very, very hard. And actually, I get mine 4 days before the end of my visa, thanks to business friends.
Okay, and you think that's a process?
Yes. Right now they have a website allowing people to apply directly and to apply with their project and be able to get a visa.
Well, explain to us how Reminder works. You use artificial intelligence.
Yes, exactly. So actually, right now, current evaluation are based on keywords, criteria such as well-known schools or well-known companies. So those tools will fail to reveal the full potential of a prospective candidates because they are going to favor prestige and not the potential of the candidates. And since keyword search engines are not smart enough to translate diverse set of experiences and backgrounds, they reveal false positives most of the time to the recruiters, and they miss out the high potential candidates. And what we did at Reminder is we built a technology that is able to qualify every part of the career path of the candidate. And by analyzing millions of career paths around the world, we are today able to assess all kinds of candidates across backgrounds and countries.
As an applicant, this can sound a bit scary that you're able to paint a picture of someone by analysing their CV. Is it good news if you're applying for a job if a company is using your software?
Yes, definitely, because we are not going to judge applicant only on the school they went to, like traditional system, or the companies they went to, but we are going to analyze every element of his career paths and analyze implicit data that we took from millions of career paths that we already analyzed to allow recruiters to identify the best one and the high potential candidates.
And you're going into Station F as part of Facebook's Garage program. What does that involve for you? The reason why I started this company, I was born in a country, Mauritania, where you have about 30% of people who are unemployed, and I always dreamed about a solution able to understand the full potential of every person in the world. And I think that working with Facebook, a company that leverage a social network of 2 billion people, it's an excellent news for us. And are you working with them on their data as well? Have you any collaborations on that front?
Actually, not yet. But we are. It will be good for us.
Station F, of course, bringing so many startups now to Paris. One of the perceptions of a lot of startups in Europe is that it's easier to raise funds in the United States. Do you think that Station F might change that?
So I never tried to raise funds from the US, but I think that it's creating a hub in France, and a lot of people, even from the United States, are looking differently to the startup scene in Paris. So I think that it will definitely help.
Muhyiddin Saif of Reminder, thank you very much for coming in to speak to us.
Thank you for having me.
Next, to a massive project that India's Prime Minister has called a game changer for investors. Narendra Modi used a meeting with bosses of major US companies to sell his flagship tax reform, the introduction of a goods and services tax. It's a dramatic overhaul of the existing system, and it's won praise from the likes of Sundar Pichai, the boss of Google. So how exactly does the new tax work? Kate Moody's been finding out. Kate.
Well, Stephen, the idea is to replace the complicated web of more than a dozen taxes imposed by central or state governments, including sales and value-added tax. Across India, goods and services will broadly fall into one of 4 tax brackets. Medicine, for example, will be taxed at 5%, processed food and ready-to-wear clothing at 12%, and cars at 28%. Staples like fresh fruit and vegetables are exempt altogether. GST outlines a tax credit for raw materials and for some purchases made in a business capacity. National and state governments will split the revenue, and states can ask for subsidies if they see their coffers suffer as a result. Because taxes will be easier to both pay and track, tax evasion is expected to fall. Proponents argue that the new system will be good for both businesses and consumers, because taxes will, on the balance, be lower than the average 25% to 30% that used to be levied on goods across the country. The GST will, in theory, make it easier for companies to sell their wares across state borders, and therefore boost economic activity. Some estimates project the streamlining could bring in up to 2% of India's GDP. That's around $41 billion US. Although Indians widely agree that their sprawling, decades-old tax system needed reform, there are broad concerns about how GST will be implemented. The system will be run entirely online, meaning that even the most humble shopfront will need a functioning computer and correct software. It's estimated that less than a third of Indians currently have access to the internet. A single tax system also needs a legal framework to deal with potential disputes, like which category a specific good or service falls into. Stephen?
Kate, thank you very much for that. Next to Thailand, which is trying to reinvent its tourist industry. Tourism is worth 1/5 of the country's GDP and supports millions of jobs. But with rising numbers of visitors, Thailand wants to move beyond backpackers and towards more luxury and eco-friendly options, as our regional correspondent Clovis Casali reports.
It's a hotel tucked away in the jungle far from Koh Phangan's hostels and resorts. This Franco-German couple built on the island a luxurious eco-lodge with local materials, running on solar power, and with its own private beach. The food served is organic and everything is recycled. Customers include CEOs and Hollywood producers, all willing to pay €500 a night for a holiday respectful of nature.
You want to be intimate in your little place instead of sharing that with 100 people around you and having to dress up for them, because this is what we don't want to do.
You want a combination between a luxury resort, vacation rental and a B&B. So that's the new trend, I think.
Thailand welcomed over 32 million visitors in 2016, generating some €40 billion. Bangkok's famous Khao San Road has been attracting travellers and backpackers from around the world for decades. Figures are rising, but authorities aren't quite satisfied.
Thailand normally a reputation for the cheap destination, and government try to promote to change the image. And Thailand hope to welcome all tourists, not only the backpacker, but we love to welcome all the luxury like a wedding honeymooner or seminar and convention.
The Travel Agents Association is working on new offers for richer tourists, banking on Thailand's islands as well as its skyscrapers. The government should soon issue recommendations for the industry to reinvent itself and have visitors ready to spend more in the country. Tourism is a priority as it sustains 2 million jobs and makes up 1/5 of GDP.
That's all from us for this week. Do remember you can get in touch with your views on the stories we're covering on Facebook at France 24 Business, or you can tweet me at NewStephen. Until next time, thanks for watching.